Have you ever wondered if there's a way out of seemingly endless debt? Have you ever imagined what it would be like to live in abundance, with peace of mind and opportunities knocking at your door? Well, that was also the reality for Sophia Brown, a dedicated mother who struggled every day to support her family amid overdue bills and sleepless nights. But something extraordinary happened when Sophia discovered a simple secret that could change not only her finances, but also her outlook on life. A secret that led her to transform worries into hope and scarcity into prosperity. Today, her story is a true testament to how the mind can open doors that until then seemed closed forever. And I ask you, do you believe it's possible to attract abundance into your life simply by changing your mindset? If you're curious, stay with me until the end of this story, because what you're about to hear may change the way you see your own reality. Oh, and before we continue, please subscribe to the channel, like it, and comment on what resonated most with you in this story. This will help more people receive this inspiring content and strengthen our transformation community. Now get ready to discover the incredible journey of Sophia Brown, a woman who rose from financial rock bottom to experience prosperity in ways she couldn't even imagine. Sophia Brown was a woman with a sweet gaze and a quick step, as if carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders, yet still finding the strength to smile at her children. Every day she woke before sunrise, preparing the simple coffee that warmed their modest home. There was no luxury, no excess, just the strength of a mother who did whatever it took to keep her family afloat. It was in this quiet routine that Sophia showed her true greatness. In her neighborhood, everyone knew her as someone who never gave up, even in the face of hardship. Her neighbors saw a hard-working woman, but they rarely realized how much her heart beat with silent restlessness. Between work and bills, she had little time for herself. Still, Sophia always made sure to fill her children's days with love and hope. Deep inside, there was a stubborn glow that never faded. She followed a routine that always seemed the same, as if the days repeated themselves in an endless cycle. The alarm clock rang, appointments called, and there Sophia was, rushing off to another journey of effort and sacrifice. Her body was tired, but her spirit found strength in every hug she received, in every innocent laugh that echoed through the house. It was there, in this simple home, that she found the strength to carry on. Sophia believed her mission was to care for her children and ensure they had enough to eat, even if it meant sleepless nights and endless worries. She didn't complain, but felt in the silence of her soul the weight of her responsibility. She didn't see herself as a heroine, just as an ordinary woman trying to survive amidst a sea of bills and obligations. But there was something invisible, a thread of hope, that though fragile, remained firm. And it was in this simple life, marked by daily struggle, that her story began to take shape, because, behind that routine of survival, something bigger was stirring. Something she didn't yet understand, but which was about to transform the course of her financial and personal life in ways she couldn't even imagine. Debt seemed to grow like a shadow that followed her everywhere. Sophia would open the kitchen drawer and there were bills piled high, each with overdue payments and interest accruing like heavy stones on her shoulders. She felt like she was always chasing after money, never catching the breath she needed to breathe easy. The money that came in barely covered basic needs, and her dreams were always put off. Every time the phone rang, her heart raced, imagining it was another insistent demand. There were times when she preferred not to answer, just to avoid hearing the same cold voice reminding her of her obligations. This constant weight caused hope to begin to fade amid the noise of responsibility. It was like walking in quicksand, where the more she struggled, the deeper she seemed to sink. Sophia tried everything, cutting expenses, small extra jobs, improvising seemingly miraculous ways to stretch what little she had. But nothing seemed enough. It was as if life had placed invisible barriers, keeping her stuck in the same place. The children, not fully understanding, innocently asked why they couldn't have what they saw in other homes. And that hurt more than any written demand. At night, when everyone was asleep, she found herself doing math in her head, scribbling numbers on scraps of paper, searching for solutions that never appeared. The silence of the early morning became a heavy companion, echoing doubts and fear. Still, Sophia didn't allow the tears to flow easily. She saved them for moments when no one could see. Her strength lay in appearing unshakable, even when everything around her screamed otherwise. And it was precisely at this point of greatest pressure that something began to move, even if subtly, because no matter how much her debts insisted on suffocating her, there was a spark hidden within her, ready to ignite and show her a new path, something she couldn't yet name, but which would soon begin to reveal its transformative power. From a young age, Sophia had heard phrases repeated like mantras around her. Money doesn't grow on trees. People like us are born to suffer, or to make money you have to work hard until you're exhausted. These words planted in her mind took deep root, as if they were unquestionable truths. She believed that prosperity was a distant privilege reserved for the fortunate few, never for someone like her. Deep down, Sophia felt that effort would never be enough to break the cycle. Even working long hours, the rewards never seemed to come. The money came and went with the same swiftness, like water slipping through one's fingers. Each new failed attempt reinforced the feeling of helplessness, as if she were trapped in a fate she could not change. These beliefs not only limited her thoughts, but also her actions. How many times had she failed to accept opportunities because she thought she couldn't? How many dreams were kept hidden in an invisible drawer, simply because she believed she didn't deserve them? The fear of failure was so great that Sophia often preferred not to even try. Thus, her life seemed to always be stuck in the same place, and even without realizing it, this way of thinking attracted situations that further confirmed her beliefs. It was as if the universe responded to every thought of scarcity with more difficulties, reinforcing the idea that abundance was out of reach. Sophia didn't understand that deep down, her mind was like a magnet, pulling toward it everything she believed most strongly. But behind all these invisible barriers, there was a quiet whisper inside her, something that insisted that perhaps there was another way, a different possibility, capable of turning the key and showing that life didn't have to be a constant repetition of the same pains. This silent premonition was about to gain strength. On silent nights, when the house finally fell asleep, Sophia found herself alone with her thoughts. The ceiling seemed heavier, the walls narrower, as if the room itself reflected the tightness of her soul. She wondered how she would pay the next bill, or if she would have enough food to fill her plates the next day. Sleep was slow to come, and when it did, it was fleeting, interrupted by the sound of her alarm clock summoning her to another day like this. Each innocent laugh from her children was a balm, but also an arrow that reminded her of her worries. She wanted to give more, much more, but her empty pocket seemed to mock her efforts. This contrast between the abundant love she carried in her heart and the material scarcity she faced weighed heavily on every gesture. Her smile was genuine, but behind it hid a deep weariness. There were times when Sophia felt as if she were living two lives. During the day, she was strong, resilient, never betraying despair. But in the silence of the early morning, she would shed silent tears, as if her pillow were the only confidant of her pain. It was in this space between day and night that her vulnerability surfaced. The constant fear of not being able to provide a better future for her children was what tormented her most. She thought about tomorrow like someone staring down a dark road, with no lighthouse to guide her. Questions swirled in her mind. Will they have the opportunities I never had? Will I be able to break this cycle? This whirlwind stole her peace and drained her strength. And yet, amidst all this emotional weight, something began to form like a gentle breeze. It was as if the universe silently was preparing an invitation, a different door that would soon open before her. A chance to see that her reality could be shaped by something beyond the incessant struggle. One day, while chatting with a friend after work, Sophia heard about a different book. It wasn't about finances or magical formulas for getting rich, but about the power of the mind and the ability to attract what you believe in. Her friend told stories of people who had changed their lives simply by adjusting their thoughts. Intrigued, Sophia took the book home, never imagining the impact it would have. That night, after putting her children to bed, she opened the first few pages. The words sounded strange at first, as if describing a world far from her own. "Attract prosperity with thoughts," she murmured, almost laughing at herself. But something deep in her heart compelled her to keep reading, as if it were a message sent especially for her. As she turned the pages, she felt a mixture of disbelief and curiosity. It was as if she were discovering a closely guarded secret. With each sentence, Sophia found herself confronting her old beliefs, the ones that told her life was nothing but sweat and sacrifice. For the first time, a spark of hope emerged that didn't come from numbers or spreadsheets, but from within herself. She closed the book for a moment, holding it to her chest, as if protecting a treasure. Her teary eyes reflected not only accumulated fatigue, but also the possibility of something new. It was as if she had found a key, and although she didn't yet know how to use it, she sensed that reading this could change everything. And it was there, in the silence of her simple living room, lit only by a dim bulb, that Sophia took the first step toward a transformation she hadn't even dared dream of. For, even as a skeptic, she had already planted the seed of curiosity in her mind, and every seed, when watered, finds a way to blossom. In the days that followed, Sophia couldn't get those words out of her head. As she washed the dishes or rode the crowded bus, the question echoed in her mind: what if it's true? What if I really can change my reality? At first it seemed like a daydream, but the more she thought about it, more the idea took shape within her, like an insistent spark begging for space to shine. She remembered each page of the book like someone remembering precious advice. Although she still harbored suspicion, she couldn't ignore the feeling that something was changing. It was as if the simple act of believing in this possibility already lifted the weight of her worries. Her heart, previously so heavy, began to feel a hint of lightness. Hope, even if timid, brought color to the gray days. Sophia began to notice small details that had previously gone unnoticed. A stranger's smile, the smell of fresh coffee in the morning, the gentle breeze coming through the window. Every moment seemed to carry a whispered message that life could be different. This realization didn't mean the debts were gone or the problems solved. They were still there, piling up as always, but inside her, something was quietly shifting. For the first time in a long time, Sophia felt like she wasn't doomed to live in the same cycle forever. And in that state of curiosity mixed with nascent faith, she began to open herself to trying something new. If until then she had believed that life was nothing but sacrifice, now a chance arose to try a different path. And this path, though nebulous, seemed to beckon her with promises of transformation. One night, lying in bed after an exhausting day, Sophia closed her eyes and tried something different. Instead of thinking about the bills piling up, she began to imagine herself debt-free. She visualized opening a drawer and finding no more outstanding bills, just empty space and peace. Her heart, which had previously been pounding with worry, now pulsed with a serene rhythm, lulled by this new scene created in her mind. She began to imagine herself walking the streets with ease, without that invisible weight on her shoulders. In her vision, her children smiled more peacefully, and the house breathed joy in every corner. It was a simple future, yet full of emotional and material abundance. This image wasn't just a distant dream. Sophia felt it so real that she even smiled silently to herself. Over time, this practice became a habit. Every day, even if only for a few minutes, she would close her eyes and transport herself to that ideal reality. She saw herself entering new opportunities, signing contracts, receiving unexpected phone calls from people interested in her work. Every detail she visualized was like a brick building her new life in her imagination. At first it seemed like a game, almost a fantasy. But the more she practiced, the more she realized something inside her was changing. The worries, still present, no longer had the same power to crush her. There was always a spark of hope that lit up at the end of each visualization exercise, like a candle illuminating a dark room. And without realizing it, Sophia began to feel that this practice was more than a pastime. It was as if she were training her mind to believe in the impossible, as if she were opening doors she hadn't even seen before. And these doors would soon begin to reveal unexpected opportunities. As soon as she woke up, before even getting out of bed, Sophia began whispering simple words, "Thank you for today." It was a small, almost imperceptible gesture, but it changed the way she approached the morning. Instead of drowning in the anxiety of bills, she chose to focus on the smell of fresh coffee, the sunlight streaming through the window, the privilege of having another chance. During dinner, she looked at her children and felt her heart expand. The food was simple, but each bite was accompanied by laughter and innocent stories. Sophia then silently gave thanks for that moment, understanding that wealth was not just in money, but in the life pulsing around her. This exercise made her eyes shine with a new perspective. Even in mundane situations, gratitude became present. When the bus arrived on time, when she found a coin forgotten in her pocket, or when a stranger smiled at her on the street, Sophia learned to recognize these signs as blessings. Every detail seemed to take on value, as if the universe were reminding her that there was already abundance in her life. This habit, repeated day after day, began to create a sense of fulfillment. What had previously seemed insufficient was now seen as sufficient, even precious. Sophia discovered that the more she gave thanks, the more reasons she had to be grateful. It was as if she had tuned her mind to a different frequency, where scarcity was no longer the dominant factor. And in this movement of daily gratitude, something within her expanded, like a fertile field ready to receive new seeds. For, by recognizing the value of the present, Sophia sowed the perfect ground for prosperity to blossom in unexpected ways. As the days lies, Sophia began to notice something curious. Whenever she immersed herself in thoughts of fear and scarcity, complicated situations seemed to arise out of nowhere, as if the universe were responding to her thoughts. But when she focused on gratitude and visualization, it was as if life opened small doors for her, bringing subtle opportunities that had previously gone unnoticed. This realization lit a light within her. Perhaps it wasn't just the external world that determined her reality, but also what she cultivated within her mind. Sophia began to watch her own words, avoiding complaining about what was missing and choosing, albeit with effort, to speak more about what she wanted. It was a constant practice, but every little step forward made a difference. Before, she believed positive thinking was naive. Now, she understood it was like tuning an instrument. If her mind vibrated at the right frequency, it attracted more harmonious sounds. This shift, though subtle, brought a sense of power she had never experienced before. Sophia was no longer just a victim of circumstances. She felt capable of creating new scenarios. Of course, the old thoughts still tried to return, like persistent shadows, but instead of letting them overwhelm her, she acknowledged them and chose to replace them with images of abundance and confidence. This process was like changing the lenses through which she saw the world. What had once seemed closed off now appeared full of possibility. And it was through this daily exercise of transforming thoughts that Sophia began to open herself to something greater. Because realizing that her mind was a kind of key, she intuited that there was still much grander doors waiting to be unlocked. One morning, standing in front of the mirror, Sophia decided to try something new. Instead of looking at herself with the weary expression of someone facing daily struggles, she took a deep breath and said softly, "I am worthy of prosperity." At first the words sounded strange, as if they didn't belong to her. But as she repeated them, she felt a different energy coursing through her body, almost like an invisible embrace. She then began creating short phrases that she carried with her throughout the day. Money flows easily into my life. I deserve to live in abundance. Every day, new opportunities come to me. These simple, short affirmations were like seeds sown in fertile soil, ready to sprout at the right moment. At first, it seemed like a meaningless game, But gradually, Sophia realized that her emotions responded to these words. Her heart calmed, her mind became lighter, and even her attitude changed when faced with challenges. The phrases, repeated daily, acted as anchors, reminding her that she could choose what to believe about herself. The children even found it strange to hear her whispering to herself, but Sophia smiled, knowing she was rebuilding her inner world. It didn't matter if the bills were still in the drawer. What mattered was that her mind was no longer trapped by the old story of scarcity. Every word spoken aloud was a hammer blow to the invisible walls surrounding her. And it was in this process of affirming day after day that she began to notice subtle changes around her. It was as if life responded to these declarations with small signs that something bigger was about to happen. It didn't take long for Sophia to notice something different was happening. One day, when she went to pay an overdue bill, she received the news that part of the interest had been waived. She left the place surprised, her heart racing, as if she had received an unexpected gift. It was small but symbolic, and it ignited in her the feeling that something was beginning to change. Not long after, a neighbor knocked on her door asking if she could help with a quick job. The payment, though modest, came at a good time and was enough to cover an expense that had been keeping her up at night. Sophia couldn't help but smile as she realized that somehow opportunities were approaching. These small situations began to recur frequently. A grocery promotion that cut her purchases in half, a friend offering her a ride for free, even a stranger giving her valuable information about a free course. Everything seemed to fall into place, like pieces of a puzzle that were finally beginning to make sense. Deep down, Sophia understood that these changes were no coincidence. She felt that her new way of thinking and being grateful was attracting these experiences. It was as if the universe was saying, "Keep going, you're on the right path." This realization filled her with motivation to maintain her daily practices. And though they were only small signs, Sophia knew they were paving the way for something bigger, like the prelude to a melody yet to come. These events announced that her life was about to enter a new phase. One afternoon, inspired by her readings and the small changes she was already noticing, Sophia decided to transform her visions into something more concrete. She grabbed a simple piece of cardboard, some old magazines, and a pair of scissors and began cutting out images that represented the life she desired. Welcoming homes, family trips, lavish tables, and even photos of smiling people in prosperous workplaces. With each cutout, she felt as if she were drawing a map for her future. She carefully pasted each image, arranging them like pieces of a dream finally beginning to take shape before her eyes. When she finished, she looked at the painting and felt a shiver run through her. It wasn't just a jumble of figures, but a window into the life she wanted to live. This painting occupied a special place on her bedroom wall, where she could see it every day. In the morning before leaving, and at night before going to sleep, Sophia would spend a few minutes in front of it, closing her eyes and imagining herself already living it. It was no longer just a wish. It was a daily practice of feeling within that reality. Gradually, the painting ceased to be just a physical object. It became a powerful reminder that her mind had the power to create paths. Every time challenges tried to suffocate her, she turned to those images and regained the strength to carry on. The painting was her compass, pointing to a destination of abundance. And as she immersed herself in this practice of materialized visualization, Sophia began to notice that the opportunities around her seemed to align with what she saw on the board. It was as if the images began to leap from the paper into reality. Just when Sophia began to feel things were improving, new obstacles arose. An unforeseen issue with the house's plumbing resulted in an unexpected expense, and for a few days she felt the old fear knocking at her door. It was as if the universe was asking, "Do you really believe in what you're practicing?" Her heart wavered, but she resolved not to give in to despair. There was also the moment when she lost one of the small side jobs that helped supplement her income. The blow was hard, and for a moment the old belief that she would never prosper returned to haunt her thoughts. But Sophia took a deep breath, turned to her dream board, and clung to her daily affirmations like someone holding on tight to a rope in the midst of a storm. Each difficulty seemed designed to test her patience and faith. She realized she could choose whether to view these moments as punishments or as necessary tests to strengthen her confidence. She opted for the latter, viewing each obstacle as training, a way to prove to herself that she wouldn't give up easily. And it was curious, the more she held firm, the faster unexpected solutions emerged. A neighbor offered to help with the plumbing for a nominal fee. A new contact appeared with a job offer that compensated for the loss of the previous one. Sophia began to see that even tests held hidden gifts. These episodes showed her that the journey would not be a straight line, but a path full of twists and turns. And yet it was precisely in these twists and turns that something greater seemed to be preparing to reveal itself. It was on an ordinary afternoon, one of those where nothing seemed different, that the opportunity arose. An acquaintance, upon seeing the simple crafts Sophia made to decorate her home, asked if she sold them. Sophia smiled shyly and replied that it was just a hobby. But deep down, something rang strong. What if that hidden skill was actually a treasure waiting to be discovered? Days later, this same acquaintance contacted her again, insisting that there were people interested in buying handicrafts like hers. Sophia hesitated, remembering the old beliefs that told her she wasn't capable of entrepreneurship. But the affirmations she'd been repeating echoed in her mind. I am worthy of prosperity. Money flows to me. Perhaps it was time to put everything she'd been practicing to the test. With a small investment, he purchased simple materials and began producing a few extra pieces. He assembled them with care, as if each detail carried his energy of hope and renewal. Soon, the first buyers arrived, enchanted by the delicacy and authenticity of his work. What had been a mere hobby began to transform into a source of income. Sophia could hardly believe what was happening. Each sale felt like confirmation that by aligning her mind with new thoughts, she was opening paths previously unseen. Shyness gave way to confidence, and her eyes shone with a joy she hadn't felt in years. Prosperity, which had always seemed distant, began to materialize in her hands, and this opportunity, which arose unexpectedly, was just the beginning of something much bigger. What Sophia didn't yet know was that this small step would be the gateway to a future of expansion and surprising achievements. Sophia knew this was a decisive moment. Fear whispered in her ear, reminding her of all the times she'd believed she couldn't do it. But at the same time there was a new voice, firm and gentle, saying, "Trust, this time it's different." Between hesitation and hope, she decided to commit herself to this new path, even without guarantees of success. With the little she had saved, she bought more materials, risking every penny like someone planting seeds without knowing if the rain will come. Her heart raced with uncertainty, but deep down she felt she was making more than an investment. She was choosing to believe in herself. This simple and courageous act was a turning point in her life. She assembled her first orders with care, packaging each piece as if it were a piece of her own dream. As she delivered the work, her hands trembled, but she soon saw the satisfied looks on her customers' faces. It was at that moment that she realized she wasn't just selling products, but sharing part of her energy and dedication. Even so, insecurities still lingered. Sophia wondered if she could handle it, if she would have enough audience, if she was truly prepared. But instead of letting these doubts paralyze her, she used her affirmations and visualizations to empower herself. She told herself that the universe wouldn't put anything in her path she couldn't handle. And so, step by step, Sophia discovered that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it. Little did she know that this leap of faith would trigger an even greater transformation, capable of completely changing her reality. The first orders were timid, almost experimental, but they brought Sophia a joy she couldn't contain. Each client who returned with compliments seemed to confirm she was on the right track. With each piece delivered, her confidence grew that this could become something greater than she had ever imagined. Soon, Word of mouth began to spread. A neighbor recommended her to a friend, who recommended her to another, and before long Sophia had more orders than she could handle alone. The room that had previously held only overdue bills was now filled with materials, colors, and ideas. The energy of scarcity was beginning to give way to the movement of abundance. What surprised her most was how people were enchanted not only by the products, but also by the care put into every detail. Sophia understood that she was selling more than crafts. She offered feelings, memories, and beauty in the form of objects. This sincere connection attracted more and more loyal customers. Although there were still difficulties, the small results began to ease the burden of debt. Sophia was able to pay off some overdue bills and even buy something extra for her children. Seeing the sparkle in their eyes as they experienced small comforts was a greater reward than any figure on paper. And as the results multiplied, she began to realize that what was emerging there wasn't just a business. It was a clear sign that when the mind opens to belief, the universe finds creative ways to confirm that faith. As the months passed, Sophia began to see a tangible transformation. Debts that had previously seemed like insurmountable mountains were being paid off one by one. Each bill paid was celebrated as a victory, not only financial, but also emotional. What had previously kept her awake at night now became a source of relief and gratitude. The business grew rapidly, surprising even her own customers. Orders increased so much that Sophia needed to create an organized routine to keep up with everything. This discipline, combined with the faith she cultivated daily, made each step feel firm, guided by the confidence that the universe was on her side. Her income, which initially barely covered basic expenses, now multiplied month after month. Sophia began saving some of her money, something she never imagined possible. Seeing the positive balance in her bank account was like watching a dream come true. And more than that, it was living proof that the abundance mindset really works. Her smile was no longer the same. It was more open, lighter, filled with an inner certainty that only those who experience great transformation can understand. Her children, in turn, felt this change in the air. The house was happier, the days were calmer, and worries no longer dominated dinner conversations. And as prosperity expanded into every area of her life, Sophia began to realize that this was just the beginning. Something inside her told her that when the mind opens to infinity, the possibilities are limitless. Over time, Sophia realized that her transformation went far beyond her bank balance. The money brought relief. Yes, but what had truly changed was how she saw herself. She no longer saw herself as the tired, overwhelmed woman she once was, but as someone capable of creating her own reality. Her posture changed, her voice became firmer, and her eyes began to reflect a new confidence. Sleepless nights, once filled with worry, now became moments of reflection and gratitude. Sophia learned to quiet her mind, trust the flow of life, and believe that she was always being guided toward the best. This inner peace was so valuable that she began to wonder if it wasn't even more important than financial prosperity itself. The weight she carried on her shoulders was replaced by a lightness difficult to describe. She walked the neighborhood streets with a different, almost radiant presence. People around her noticed the change and asked what had happened, as if they too wanted to discover the secret of that serene glow that now accompanied her. Sophia realized that money was just one manifestation of her new mindset. True wealth lay in rediscovering her inner strength, in knowing she could overcome obstacles and create abundance in all areas of life. This discovery filled her with gratitude, as if every breath were a silent celebration. And as she realized this inner transformation, Sophia eyed to understand that there was still more to come. After all, when the mind opens to abundance, not only does the bank account grow, but the entire inner universe flourishes. Sophia's children might not understand all the details of what was happening, but they felt the change firsthand. The house was no longer heavy, the silence laden with worry. Laughter once again echoed through the rooms, and dinner was no longer a hurried meal, but a moment of celebration. Security, once fragile, now stood firm like a foundation. They saw in their mother not just a provider, but a true inspiration. They observed her courage, her discipline, and, above all, her faith in something greater. It was impossible not to be infected by her enthusiasm, the confidence in her eyes. Little by little, they also began to believe that dreams were possible, that there were no limits beyond those the mind could accept. Sophia began involving her children in small gratitude practices. At the end of the day, they gathered to give thanks together for the simple things: food on the table, their health, moments of joy. These moments created a new atmosphere within the home, a sense of unity and hope that strengthened each of them. Even the neighbors noticed the difference. The children were more confident, more smiling, and spoke of their mother with pride. It was as if Sophia's energy had expanded, touching not only her life, but the lives of everyone around her. Her transformation had planted seeds of faith in others. And seeing this flame burning in her children's eyes, Sophia understood that her journey went far beyond money. She had broken a cycle and built a new path, where hope was her most precious asset. And this was just the beginning of the legacy she would leave them. Looking back, Sophia barely recognized the woman she once was. The same woman who cried in secret at night, fearing the future, now walked with her head held high, her steps firm, and her heart calm. She had discovered that true strength lay not outside, but within herself, in the way she chose to think, feel, and act. Her life had become a silent but powerful testament. It wasn't just the money that changed, it was her worldview, the courage to believe in herself, and the trust that the universe responds when the mind is aligned with faith and action. Sophia became, without realizing it, a living example that it is possible to rewrite one's own story. Those who knew her were inspired by seeing her prosper. They no longer saw just a woman who had overcome debt, but someone who radiated abundance in everything she did. Her journey demonstrated that prosperity doesn't come from magic formulas, but from the combination of believing, acting, and remaining faithful to what you want to attract. Sophia now lived with an open and grateful heart. With each achievement, she remembered the journey she had traveled, the difficult nights, and the small signs that had revealed themselves along the way. Everything previously seen as obstacles was now recognized as etching stones that had led her there. And her story, which began marked by scarcity, ended with a clear message. When the mind opens to abundance and the heart chooses to trust, the impossible becomes just a matter of time. Sophia Brown was living proof that the law of attraction isn't just theory, it's a bridge to transforming dreams into reality. And so Sophia Brown's life transformed in surprising ways. What was once marked by debt, fear, and sleepless nights became a story of confidence, abundance, and prosperity. But her greatest achievement wasn't just paying her bills or seeing her income grow. It was discovering that true wealth originates within us in the way we choose to think and believe. Sophia proved that when mind, faith, and action come together, the impossible ceases to exist. Her journey is a reminder that we all have the power to create a new reality, even when everything around us insists otherwise. She shows us that transformation begins silently in the heart and then blossoms in the external world. And now I ask you, what have you been attracting into your life? Isn't it time to change your mindset to make room for the abundance that's already available to you? Sophia's story is an invitation for you to reflect and believe more in your own power. If this story touched you in any way, remember to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and like it. This not only helps the channel grow, but also ensures you continue to receive content that can inspire your own transformation journey. Because, after all, prosperity isn't a distant destination. It starts today, within you, and can blossom in ways you never imagined.